Danny Kruger.
Madam Deputy Speaker, 20,000 Syrians, 18,000 Afghans, 100,000 Hong Kongers and an unlimited number of Ukrainians, probably upwards of 100,000 are expected. It is just not the case, as the Honourable Gentleman just said, that there is not an ounce of compassion in this country for supporting refugees fleeing from conflict. It is simply not the case. Of course, there are difficulties, and there is too much bureaucracy in many cases, and we're all familiar with that. I don't think there's any individual to blame, ministers or officials. The fact is, though, the systems are often clunky and bureaucratic, and we need to improve upon that. But there is a factor that really applies when we consider mass migration and asylum in our times. We are trying to manage hard borders in an age of free trade and mass migration, and we are facing enormous pressures on our borders. Madam Deputy Speaker, beyond the remit of this bill, of course, there is our foreign engagement. I think we need to be more engaged. In other debates, we have discussed the need for further investment in our defences and in development spending and in our diplomatic corps. I also think we need to accept more refugees into this country in the years ahead. Not more economic migrants, except those who are highly skilled and able to make a very significant contribution, but certainly more refugees. And I want to speak briefly in support of the sponsorship scheme that the government has introduced. I think it is so good as a model. Rather than government and councils being responsible for identifying migrants and admitting them into this country, we are inviting communities themselves to take the lead. And I find it surprising that members opposite, who object so strenuously to the bureaucracy and to faceless systems, they want government to match refugees with sponsors. They think councils should be responsible for organising where people come and live. I think we have a better system that is self-organising, and the inspiring example that members around the House have noticed in Eastern Europe of communities reaching out to refugees, again, is all self-organising. It shows you don't need government to match people. So how do we do this securely? It's totally wrong to say that anybody who breaks into the UK has a right to live here. It is a terrible incentive to people to take dangerous trips across the Channel. It is unjust to those legal migrants and refugees. It is wrong for the citizens who live here. It is the essence of sovereignty that people can't just decide to move here on their own initiative. We have a moral obligation to illegal migrants to save their lives if they undertake these dangerous journeys, and to treat them with absolute decency when they get here, and then to return them to the back of the queue, which means, if possible, back to the last safe country they were in, and if necessary to a third country. The effect will be to deter this dangerous and illegal crossing. We must do more to deter people smuggling, which is why I support the measures in the bill to introduce stronger penalties for people who break into this country, much stronger penalties against the smugglers who bring them over, more power and resources for our border force, including opportunities to return to France if that could be done safely, and more power to remove illegal immigrants. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, two quick conclusions. One, I think we need more use of community sponsorship route as a default model for refugee resettlement. I echo the point made by my right honourable friend for Ashford earlier. I believe in the generosity and compassion of local communities in this country. I believe community sponsorship is the most effective way to accommodate refugees and asylum seekers into our country. And secondly, in order to ensure the security of our borders, I wonder whether we should consider a new department for that purpose, a new department for borders that looks after visas, asylum and security. A smaller and more effective operation might be better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Claudia Webb.